What is up, y'all? Shout out to y'all for last week's video. Y'all blew that thing up. Blew it up. That's what I'm talking about. That's the type of energy I wanted all season. But shout out to y'all for doing that. Do it again. Hit the thumbs up button. Get in the comments. Y'all see how much that helps the video out. And shout out to all y'all that came through. Y'all came through in numbers. New subscriptions. Let's keep it coming. We are finishing up this season. Make sure to stay with me. Stay with me because I'm going to be here for season 3. Let's hope we don't have a lot of these people back. But I'm going to be here for Bravo shows. If you like Bravo shows, stay locked to the channel. I plan on doing Salt Lake City. I plan on doing Potomac. I plan on doing Married to Medicine. So stay locked to the channel. If anything else good comes out, I might do it. I'm going to see what this Vanderpump Rules is giving. We know it's a completely new cast. We'll see what the trailer looks like whenever they decide to drop it. We know they've been doing the teasers. So we'll see what happens then. But yeah, stay like. But thumbs up the video, drop the comments down below, subscribe if you're new, and let's go. All right, but we get back where we left off, which was Jason trying to pump fake a crash out moment with Danny. But Janet is pretty much stating that Danny's been inappropriate with women many times since what had happened, lying again. But Danny and Nia are telling her that she's lying, and Janet is sitting there stating that there's multiple people that know about it, and then she states to Michelle. Michelle then states that Brittany had felt uncomfortable at some party, and Brittany was like, yeah, he was following me around like he was drunk or whatever, and his personality kind of changed, but he was flirtatious. Nothing about that was given S.A. like Janet was trying to insinuate, which is defamation. It is defamation of character. You're stating that he was S.A.ing people, and you pretty much assumed or insinuated that Brittany was one of those people when Brittany just debunked that that was not what it was. So you're sitting here putting false narratives on this man because it's easy to do it considering what happened with Jasmine and Melissa. So you're sitting here doing what we've stated all season, and like they're literally doing, like Kristen, Danny, Nia, and Luke are literally telling you right now, you're trying to ruin his character. You're trying to assassinate that man's character, stating that he's doing things that he didn't do, which is defamation. And you sitting here trying to act like you so above the law and you know the law. You should know that what you're doing is defamation, and that could be used against you. If it was me, I would have sued the fuck out of her. She would have been going to court. She would have been going to court, and then she would have been going to jail. But they're telling her that she's lying, and Brittany then states that Nia says it's important to specify considering how Janet is talking. Like I just stated, yes, it is. But Andy then calls Jason and Janet out for stating that he did the same thing, which, as I just debunked, that was not the same thing as what he did with Melissa and Jasmine. So Andy talks about how if he has a drinking problem, asks Danny if he feels like he has a drinking problem. And Jasmine says, like, I only said it because of what he did. No, he ends up asking Jasmine that. That's why she said it. But Jason then asked, like, do you think that you have a drinking problem, talking to Danny? And Danny was like, I haven't drank in a few weeks. Jason then states that everybody on this stage has a drinking problem. Like Kristen did, that's pretty bold to state when you don't know for a fact if that's true. Like, but Jason then states that, and he says the fact that you want to admit it is what's crazy. Danny then throws the question back to him and asks, do you have a drinking problem? And he says, it's a battle for me. So you got the audacity to be sitting here trying to call this man out for having a drinking problem, yet you have one yourself. And then you want him to admit that he has a drinking problem, yet you can't openly admit that you have one until you were pressed about it. Get him off of my show. Get him and Janet off of my TV. I'm tired of them. But Kristen then states that what I just said, and you can't make those bold ass statements about other people that you don't know it to be true. But Jason then says that he didn't want to get worked up because Danny and Nia are beautiful people and they have a beautiful family, yet y'all are sitting here trying to tear them apart. Like that's the thing with him and Jax. Like y'all are weird. Like y'all are some fucking weirdos. They couldn't be in my life. Danny and Nia are too nice, and that's the thing. They are too nice to the point where they continue to allow these people to do this shit, and they keep running back in their lives because they're so forgiving. I can never be that forgiving. I'm sorry. You cannot treat me like shit and then think you're gonna be able to do it again. Once you do it there one time, you're done. Like you're done. You don't have any way to come back in my life. But Danny was like, you just called me a clown sitting here name calling and stuff. And Jason's like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Shut up. But Brittany then states that none of us think that you're a bad person talking to Danny. It's just the events where you've acted out of character. Y'all have not acted out of character. Like, it's crazy how they trying to make him seem like he's the only one that's done something wrong. Brittany, you've acted a fool. You did it with Nia. You've done it. You've acted a fool too. Jax, we already knows. Jesse, we already know. Janet, we already know. Jasmine, we already know. Zack, we already know. Who else am I missing? Michelle, we already know. Kristen, we already know. The only ones that have not acted a fool on this show is Nia and Luke. They're the only ones that have not shown their ass. Like, be for real. But we start talking about Jason's ring takeoff situation, and Andy ends up asking Jasmine how she feels about Jason pretty much thinking that she made the shit up. And she was like, that's the wackest rumor for me to even make up. Like, I didn't make it up. I didn't lie. And Andy then says that he was surprised seeing Janet and Jason go about this ring situation and go and get ring tattoos to try and debunk the rumors when they claim they didn't care about it. Me too, because if you don't care, you don't do shit like that. Like, you don't do shit like that. You don't give shit that you don't care about energy and time. So she states that it wasn't to debunk. It was just them getting a tattoo because it was a fun excuse to make light of the issue. Like I just said, if you don't care, you don't care. You don't do anything. You don't bring any energy to it. You trying to make light of it is because y'all feel some type of way about it, and you're trying to not feel some type of way about it because y'all care, because you know it's true. Like, let's keep it real. Allegedly, but where there's smoke, there's fire. But Andy then starts talking about how Zack had thought it was comical how they pretty much laughed it off when Kristen had pretty much addressed it with them, and they later made a big deal about it. And Zack was like, yeah, they realized it was their storyline. Clock it. Clock it. But Janet claims that she realized that her and Kristen's friendship wasn't getting any better and wasn't in a better place, and she was bummed out about it, and claims that they have a calm, boring marriage. And Kristen said exactly what I was thinking. Now you're relevant. Thank you. Say thank you. But Janet then says, well, I mean, it's out there and people are going to question his character. Kristen again stating what I was thinking. People don't give a fuck. Like, y'all are not interesting enough for people to care. Like, we're only talking about it because the episodes dropped. We're recapping the episodes as they happen. That's the only reason why we're talking about it. When the show is done, nobody gives a fuck about y'all. Don't care what y'all got going on. And that's basically what Kristen stated. She was like, the only people that perpetuated the shit was the two of y'all. It's not that important for fans to sit here and care about it. Kristen was clocking. But she then states, after the party, I told y'all I was just being an asshole. I was just being a bitch because y'all came for Danny and Nia. And which makes it even more crazy because it's like Kristen literally just admitted, I just was doing this shit just to piss y'all off. But y'all still continue to bring the shit up and continue to make it a storyline because y'all needed something to talk about. Like, that's just really what it is. But Kristen and Jason and Janet start making slick comments because she stated, like, y'all were coming after my friends, Danny and Nia. And they making slick comments under their breath, not stating it out loud to where Danny and Nia can hear it. I said, say it with your chest. Stop being some punk ass bitches. Like, state the shit the way you really state it with your chest. Like, get it on the speaker. But Kristen then says, I told y'all to your face that I was just being a bitch. And Jason's like, well, why aren't we allowed to be mad about it? She says, it's not that y'all aren't allowed to be mad about it. It's the fact that y'all just won't shut the fuck up about it. Like, y'all been sitting here talking about it the entire summer. Clock him, Kristen. But Jason then says he was more upset about Jasmine. And Kristen was like, but y'all tried to state that I made the shit up. Like, that's really what it is. But Jason says that they weren't even going after Kristen. Lies. Kristen says, like, y'all literally tried to make my reputation out to be some type of liar. And Janet was like, yeah, because you be exaggerating stuff. Kristen says, I'm not exaggerating. I'm uncovering the truth, inserting myself into places that don't concern me, but I'm not a fucking liar. Kristen do be telling the truth. Like, say what you want to state about Kristen. The shit she be stating, whether it's proven in the moment, it's going to be proven later on. Everything she said last season was proven to be true this season. She did not tell not one lie. Not one lie. But Andy then talks about Jasmine stating that Janet gives Karen energy. She do. She absolutely do. She tries to play the victim. She tries to point the finger. She tries to gaslight people when she does shit. That's Karen behavior. Call a spade a spade. But Jasmine, this is why I can't get with Jasmine. Jasmine pisses me off. Jasmine, me being black, I naturally look out for black people. Jasmine makes it very hard for me to look out for her because Jasmine does not look out for herself. Like, you said what you said for a reason. Stand on that shit. Stand on it. But what does she do? She cowers to, you can tell she just wants to be Janet's friend, and it's like she's scared of Janet, and it's weird to me. But Jasmine says that Janet was calling her a snake, which it was later proven that it wasn't Janet, it was actually Jason. But they played the flashback, and Jasmine was like, you wouldn't let me speak in the moment and explain. So Andy then asked if Jason was surprised by Jasmine getting upset, and Jason ends up asking Jasmine if she felt like she was being manipulated, pretty much trying to state Kristen was manipulating her, watching it back. Kristen wants to interject, and you can see she's trying to state something, and Luke is sitting there like, shh. And she's like, don't tell me the shit. I'm like, please don't tell her the shit. Let her get him together. But Jasmine says she doesn't feel like she said she doesn't think that she was. Jasmine, stand on it. Like, Jasmine is annoying. Like, why don't you, and I want to state this too, I'm holding her accountable, but it doesn't give you the opportunity to get down in my comments and start making racial comments. Because that's what one person did, call her a black lesbian. Her name is Jasmine. Her being a black lesbian is not, that's not what you go about talking. And those undertones, you're not going to do that in my comments. I don't care for Jasmine, but one thing I'm not going to do is allow that in my comments when it comes to a black person. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. So if you're doing that and you got to unsubscribe, do what you got to do. We're not doing that over here. But where was I at? Hold on. So Andy then asked Jason, who do you think manipulated her? Jason says Kristen doesn't like Janet, and Janet's been the scapegoat for everything. And I watch the show and I see what happens. Kristen was me. She said, what show are you watching? Like, what show? And Danny was like, you watch as her husband. That's why you feel that way. Kristen had me dying laughing because she started laughing too. Like, what the fuck were you watching? What were you watching? Are you just proving that you're delusional? Like, that woman does everything she does stuff, which is why people get on her. Like, Janet literally has nothing going on in her life, which is why she tries to mess up other people's life, which is why Kristen gets on her ass. That's why Zack gets on her ass, because she sits here and does stuff to try and damage people's lives. So yeah, you're gonna get clocked on it. But Andy didn't ask how Jasmine really feels about Janet. And this is where she started to piss me off. She says, I mean, we're like family or whatever. We're going to fight and stuff, like sisters and whatnot. But it's not that I hate her, but we just have issues that we need to talk out. And we just don't talk at all. Like, at this point, we don't talk, but there's no hate. Jasmine then talks about how Janet was crying at home with their issue. And Melissa had pointed out, like, y'all still care about each other. Janet's sitting there with them crocodile tears trying to cry. And Jasmine says, like, there's still love there. Kristen says, but y'all still be talking shit about each other. Clock it. And then she says there's a group text chain where apparently, I guess Jasmine's in it. I guess it's where her, Kristen, and Zack, where Jasmine be talking shit about Janet. So Kristen's making her stand on it. And of course, Jasmine's not standing on it. That's that shit that gets on my nerves to Jasmine. Stand on that shit. If you talking shit about her, own up to the fact that you talking shit about her. Like, own up to it. Because you wouldn't be wrong, because you're probably stating the real shit about her. But Jasmine don't want to stand on no shit. And that shit annoys me. But Kristen clocks how Jasmine be saying how Janet doesn't act herself. And Jasmine says, like me, a little bit. No, you said it for a reason. State it. Like, why are you scared of her? Like, it's weird. And then she then states, like, we brush it under the rug. I said, that's punk shit. Like, why are you brushing shit under the rug that you know is an issue? And that's why it's going to continue to always happen. You brushing shit under the rug with somebody like Janet, she's always going to continue to do it because you're not holding her accountable, because she's not going to hold herself accountable. She doesn't know how to self-reflect because she's a narcissist. Those type of people will not self-reflect. So you, as the person that's watching it, have to make sure that they have no choice but to acknowledge what they're doing wrong. That's why Jasmine's always going to be a doormat. But Andy then asks who feels like Janet is a Karen, and Kristen and Zack are sitting there nodding their head. They didn't raise their hand, but if they could, they would. But Jasmine then says that she was just exhausted because of the shit between Zack and Kristen with Janet, and she should have just come to her about it. I said, you're not standing on business. But Andy then asks if the three of them, Janet, Jasmine, and Jason, are good. And Janet pulls out the victim tears, and she's talking about how much she likes Jasmine and Melissa, and she misses them, yada, yada, yada. Jasmine then says, like, our relationship isn't the same. Maybe one day. Jason hopes one day that they'll be good. I don't give a fuck. I do not care. But Andy then moves to the Brits party at Jax's bar, where they ripped everything off and made it Brits for the night. The night before Jax got let out from his rehab. I feel like he was on a resort. But Jax then says that he understands why they did it, but taking the signs and throwing the shit away in the garbage was a bit much. Nia and Brittany said that was a completely different situation. That was not the same night. He says, but it was still hurtful. Andy then says, like, it was them propping her up. Because, like, if you would have watched, you would have saw their intentions and what they meant by doing that. Kristen interjects and states, like, the bar has never been about Brittany. Like, you make the bar all about you. Like, Brittany didn't help you get that bar up. She didn't put her money into it. Like, it's just as much her bar as it is yours. So we made it about her at her bar, where she actually puts money into. We made it about her for one night. But Brittany then states, like, yeah, I was the one keeping it afloat while you were in rehab. But Andy then asks if Zack is allowed in the bar, and Jack says no. And Zack says it's funny because how he got all this animosity towards me, even though I was the one that was his biggest Jack's apologist. I was always there for him. I was always there for Brittany. And for him to turn on me and her is kind of odd. But Jackson says, but you've been talking shit on social media. Zack was like, the shit I say on social media ain't half as near the shit that I would say to your face. But Jax then says he don't care about it, and I don't care about what you got going on. Jax, if you didn't care, you wouldn't mention it. Like, you do care. But Zack then says that he wants better for Jax, yada, yada, yada. But Andy then starts talking about how Brittany outed his burner account on the show. And Jax apparently don't watch the show. I don't believe that. Like, he's trying to make it seem like he's above watching the show. You watch it. You watch it. Somebody like Jax, who's a narcissist that is being filmed on TV, is watching himself on TV. You can't tell me otherwise. But he's sitting there trying to act dumbfounded. But Andy was like, are you still commenting from that account? And he's like, no, I don't even use it anymore. I don't believe that. Like, Jax is a liar. But Andy then talks about Jax coming to Benji's welcome home party, uninvited, kind of giving some Kristen Doute type shit. And mentions how he was stating this is his show when he and Zack were in that altercation. And Andy was like, wasn't it funny how you were stating the same thing at Vanderpump Rules, on Vanderpump Rules? And that was kind of like the ending of your journey on the show. As this is the ending of his journey on this show. Poetic justice. But Andy then asked them to raise their hand why did I put Zack? If Jax has referred to this show as his. Everybody raised their hand. But Brittany then states like he was gone from the show. Nobody missed him. Where are the lies? I remember stating on one of the recaps, we have not gotten Jax on here, and I've been thoroughly entertained. Do not miss him. Do not want to see him. But Danny then states that Jax claimed that he had fired everybody from season 1 because he didn't like their edits. And he's sitting there talking about something. Well, I didn't say that. I never said that. I don't have that kind of control. Kristen and Brittany were me. We know you don't. That's why we're sitting here. Dummy, wake up. But Andy then moves to Kristen's engagement surprise. Luke stated that he had knew that Kristen was the one with the road trip, as we stated earlier in the season. And he was like, on the way back, that's when I realized it. Like, she put up with a lot of stuff that we had going on that road trip. We didn't argue. Like, everything was good. He knew then that's when he needed her in his life. And Luke said that he hadn't watched Vanderpump Rules. We find out that. Kristen then stated that she knew that Luke was the one 6 to 7 months into it. And he had stated that he loved her first, and that's when she knew. They show off the ring. It looks really, really beautiful. Kristen says it's perfect for her. It's bigger than what she wanted and what she had told him, but she's happy, of course. Andy then asked if she was actually genuinely surprised because we all know Kristen can sniff some shit out. And she says she was genuinely shocked. She said she knew one day he would do it. She just didn't think it would be on camera or at that moment. But Andy gives Luke, Danny, and Nia their props for pulling it off because, as we all know, Kristen is hard to surprise, and they actually pulled it off. But he then asked why Brittany wasn't included. We all know why. Brittany proved the very next episode why she wasn't included. But Luke then says Jax has a big mouth, as does Brittany. And if she had gotten included, it probably would have gotten to him. And if it got out, that would have been the risk that I took by literally ruining my own surprise for my soon-to-be fiance, as now fiance. So Andy then asked Brittany if she told Jax out of revenge, and she swears up and down that she did not do it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Because how convenient. You were so mad, and then the very next day, Jax is sitting there hitting up Kristen. Like, be for real. Be for real. But Jax immediately put it in the group chat, as we all knew he would. Like, just a fucking asshole. But Andy then asked how Kristen had felt about Janet and Jason skipping out on the engagement. And she was like, it was smart. She was like, if they would have been there, it wouldn't have pissed me off. Like, at this point, it wouldn't have mattered to me because Kristen don't give a fuck about them. That's the difference. If Kristen was at one of their parties when they probably didn't want her there, they would be upset about it. Kristen don't give a fuck about them. But Andy then says, like, after knowing Kristen for so many years, it's been so good to finally see her in, like, this, like, zen, mellow moment because she's normally so chaotic. And he talks about how well Luke and her compliment each other, and it's the truth. It is literally the truth. If you would have told me, I would say 10 years ago, I did not like Kristen from Vanderpump Rules season 1 to, like, her last season on the show. I really didn't like her on the last season of her show. If you would have told me watching The Valley that I would have liked Kristen, couldn't have told me otherwise. I loved Kristen last season, and I genuinely love this version of Kristen that we have. And I truly believe it's a genuine version of her. I feel like she's done the work. I feel like she's grown. Granted, she's done a lot of things that I don't normally stand for, but I'm the type of person that's willing to allow somebody to show the growth. And I've seen the growth in her, and I'm actually happy to see that. And I'm seeing that it's actually progressed. It's been consistent. Those are the type of people that I can give grace to. So yeah, Luke is good for Kristen. And we all know that. Ever since Luke came on the show, He has been proof that he is what she needs, which is why I'm happy that they're together. I'm happy that they have a kid now. And you see the benefits of having good people in your life. But Andy didn't ask if Jesse had planned to confront Aaron in Hawaii. So he states that he had wanted to have a conversation because his girlfriend had pretty much set boundaries with Michelle. And he's like, oh, well, I'm a man. I should be able to set boundaries. Oh, you had a premonition and you felt that way now? Like, you've always been. I'm like, okay. But Andy didn't ask, like, were you happy with the conversation? And he was like, there were some intense moments. We were looking at each other in the eye, making eye contact, had some man-to-man moments. But it was a good conversation overall. So Andy then asked Michelle, like, when y'all got back to the room, how did Aaron tell the conversation? And she was like, he said it went well overall. And as you see, they got along in Hawaii. They showed this picture of them sitting on each other's lap. Jesse states, like, I mean, we eventually had to get to a point where we have to move forward because she's moving forward. There's no point in holding this animosity. So Andy then talks about how Kristen had insulted Janet, telling Brittany that Janet was a fan of Vanderpump Rules. And he was like, why is it creepy? She says, because it's not about being a fan. Like, that's not what it is. It's just how she changed the minute the camera started rolling on season 1, which is weird. But Kristen then says, like, when Jax had brought my ex onto the show on season 1, Janet's in here doing these interviews, the confessionals, talking shit about me when she was one of my best, closest friends. During that moment when I was with him, she knew what was going on. And for her to get on camera bad mouthing me, that is fucking weird. And it is fucking weird. But Andy then asked, like, if she befriended them. He asked Janet if she befriended them to get on TV. And she claims no. Kristen is making it seem, she said Kristen's making it seem like I got good as gold posters all over my childhood bedroom. I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't. But Kristen says, I think that you're trying to be somebody that you're not, developing some type of alter ego that you are on camera. Sounds fitting to me. But Janet claims that she's not and she didn't do it. She says that we were just bad for a year prior to us filming. So she's trying to make it seem like her and Kristen weren't good prior to filming. But Kristen then says that Janet has this alter ego and she acts like it on camera. Danny and Nia agreed to it. And they were like, there are multiple examples. Jason's talking about something. Well, y'all didn't even know us before cameras. Nia says, so y'all weren't in my house when I had my daughters. Like, when I had my daughters, when they were born, you were in there dancing with my son before we were filming. They're such they are liars. I need them off of my TV. But Janet says the one time I've been in your place. That's the one time I've been in your place. But you were there. That's the point. So if you didn't know them, you wouldn't be able to be there. Dummy. So Nia then says, like, y'all say that and try to act like y'all didn't know us during filming, yet y'all met our daughters, and that is wrong, and that is more lies. I said, you better clock them, Nia. But Nia, she getting hot at this point. She said, I feel like I'm having contractions, and Danny's telling her to calm down. She's like, I can't sit here and watch these people sit here and lie. You shouldn't. Clock them. But Janet then says that when we started filming, Kristen has said that Janet has said that Michelle was racist, and she didn't say that, so that's what changed everything. I believe you did say it. I do. Kristen said I didn't make it up. So she's backing what I'm thinking. But Andy then brings up Janet stating that Danny had S.A. Jasmine and Michelle on the boat when she had just made peace with Danny and Nia. This part right here was aggravating. So Janet states that once they started talking about Kristen, or talking to Kristen, she started talking about when Kristen was talking, stating that Janet was attacking Danny and Nia. She felt like she wasn't attacking them, and he did something horrible that needs to be addressed, and she used the legal term. With me defending Danny, I'm not discounting the fact and discrediting the fact that what he did with Jasmine and Michelle was wrong. But that's the thing, though. He's not as well. He's taking accountability for it. Jasmine, and I'm not discrediting how she feels. She has every right to feel some type of way about it. But my issue with Jasmine is, there's two issues. You waited to bring it to camera, and that was proven last week. You said we weren't in a situation when Danny and Nia literally confirmed, and you did as well. Y'all were around each other a whole year prior to you bringing this shit to camera, a whole year after it happened, yet you bring it to camera, and then you have an issue. You then address it with him. He then apologizes. You accept the apology. That is it. Leave the shit alone. The only time you should bring it back up is if it happens again. And I understand it's easy to say, oh, well, you don't know what it feels like to be a victim of SA or a victim of being inappropriately touched. I understand that. But my whole thing is, if you're going to state you're okay with it, then you need to move on. You can't keep bringing the shit up, especially if it doesn't happen. So that's my whole issue when it comes to Jasmine. And then also my issue when it comes to, I don't forget what my other issue was. Maybe it'll come to me when I start talking about it. But she stated like it needs to be addressed again. And Kristen was like, it's already been addressed 40 times, which it has. It has. And Kristen, it says like, why would you bring, Kristen said, why did you bring their names? No. Janet asked Kristen, why did she bring Danny and Nia's names up? And Kristen said, because you attacked them, so I was being a bitch, like I said. And Andy then asked, like, were you trying to ruin their life, pretty much? Danny's life. But Janet then says, like, if you did the things that you did, you're responsible, not me talking about it. If they weren't true, then that's on me. And if you put your hands on women without consent, you have to own up to it. You are not wrong, Janet. But he's already done that. So that proves that you're literally doing things to fuck up his life. You sitting here acting like he didn't own up to the shit. He's owned up to it numerous times on camera. We've seen it. We've seen it. He has not tried to act like he didn't do anything wrong. He knew he hurt and offended and inappropriately did something with Jasmine and Michelle and Melissa. He owned up to it to them. He owned up to it. They accepted his apology, and they all three agreed to move on. You consistently bringing this shit up over and over and over again when it hasn't happened again, that is the fucking problem. That is why they're always coming for you. You're not a victim. She tries to act like she's such a victim. That's what I talk about with that Karen energy. That is a Karen. But Andy then asked if touching somebody is SA, and Jason says it's battery. Y'all tell me if he's right or wrong. Kristen ends up later clocking him later on, but we're going to get to it. But Danny says, like, those words are powerful, which they are. And Janet says, then don't do it. So Danny and Nia says, like, he owned up to it. He took accountability for it, and we will continue to do that as well. But he says that we've done it multiple times. We've apologized multiple times to try and get in a better place. Then the next day you out here throwing out these terms and throwing these words out. And Kristen says that Melissa even yelled at you to quit it. And we saw that. We saw that on the camera during the episode, and they showed it back in the flashback. But Kristen then asked, why did you use that term? So Jasmine then says she's not wrong, I guess. Jasmine, if you're going to say some shit, stand on it. Stand on it. Don't half-ass step into the shit. But Janet then says that's SA. And Jasmine says, like, it's not fair that it happens to women. This is what she's stating that Jasmine said this. And Jasmine later admits to it. But she says that Jasmine has stated that it's not fair that it happens to women. And these idiot guys get to face the consequences. Don't get to face the consequences for it. So my whole thing with that is, Jasmine, if that's how you truly feel about it, then stand in it. Walk in it. If you feel that way, get away from Danny. Stop being around him. If that's how you really feel about it, then don't do that. Don't do that. But Jasmine admits to it. But Kristen then states that you're just trying to make them look bad. Janet sarcastically states, well, should we just sweep it under the rug? Kristen, Luke, Danny, and Nia all said at the same time, we've literally addressed it. We've addressed it over and over and over again, and they have. I'm tired of talking about it. I'm tired of talking about it because it's always been talked about. He's literally talked about it and addressed it numerous times. But Janet gaslights them, talking about well, I'm being asked about it because you keep talking about it. That's why. Because you don't have a storyline. You had to make it your storyline. But Jesse then states the only person who should state what it is and what it wasn't was Jasmine and Melissa. They all agree. Danny then says, that's why Melissa said stop talking about it. But Janet then says that she apologized and she stopped whenever Melissa said it. But Jasmine then says like they were all like, this is where Jasmine lost me here too. We said it because we were like, are we ever going to get past it? Is it like, are we ever going to get past this? It's making me more, it's only going to make me more angry with Danny. Jasmine, are we ever going to get past it? Yet you bring it up out of nowhere after you've already established that you accept his apology. Yet you continue to bring it up. You don't want to get past it because you need a storyline. Like, that's just really what it is. We got to call a spade a spade. But Andy then asked who feels that Janet was being reckless with the term. And Danny, Nia, Luke, Kristen, Jesse, and Zach, they all raised their hand. Brittany sitting over there trying to play with her strap like she's about to raise her hand, trying to like pump fake. I said, you phony as fuck. Like, you a phony ass motherfucker. But Jasmine then says that she thinks that she's coming from a good place. Talking about Janet. I said, that's why when she does you dirty next season, I'm not defending you. Because you know that girl was not coming from a good place. You know she wasn't. Like, stop playing. Like, that's how you know she's scared of her. Like, it's crazy. And Nia says it's not, because it's not. But Danny says, like, it's coming from a malicious place, and it is. And Kristen says, like, using that term, what do you think? But Janet then starts gaslighting them, talking about something. What term you want me to use? You want me to use grope, the M word that I can't say on YouTube? I almost said it. But Jasmine then says, like, says to Zack that she thought that Janet was trying to be a friend, but it just didn't land. And Zack was like, you don't even feel that way for real, for real. She says, no, I don't. So why are you saying it? Shut up, Jasmine. Shut up. But Andy then asked Jason, as an attorney, is that potentially defamatory? Kristen says he's a workers' comp attorney. That shit had me weak. But Jason's trying to prove himself. And Jason ends up asking, Andy ends up asking Jason if she pressed charges, like what would happen. And Jason pretty much gives some half-assed answer, stating that they would pretty much throw it out and he wouldn't be jailed for it. So Andy then asks her, why would you use the term then? So Janet then says, like, I'll never use the term again now. Yeah, because now you feel stupid at this point. Now you look stupid. And Danny and Nia's like, she's disgusting. Like, she just literally wants to hurt people. She loves drama. She loves attention. All of that is true. But Nia then says, like, there needs to be clarity with the words that are being thrown out here that are not true. Janet sitting here stating that it happens multiple times in reference to SA is painting a narrative that he's out here SAing people. And she was like, when she says that, trying to assassinate his character as a person and to put shit out there that hasn't happened, that's not okay. And I said, that is defamation. Sue her ass. That's what that is. That is what that is. You are lying, stating some shit as a fact about somebody that did not happen to assassinate this man's character, which could be damaging to his life, could be damaging to his career. That is defamation. Sue her ass. And it's crazy how Jason is sitting here backing her up as a attorney. For real. But Janet says, okay, but because you feel stupid, and you know she's right. But Danny says that, those words can ruin pretty much my life. And she's like, yeah, there's a lot of words that have been thrown around this cast that can be ruining everybody's life. Always pointing the finger. She can never take accountability. She can never say, yes, I was wrong, and end it. She always got to point fingers at somebody else. But Janet then says that Danny said that Michelle was a whore on camera, which we literally did not see it. So what camera were you watching? Like, what show were you watching? Because we didn't see him call her a whore. And Danny and Nia deny it. And Janet says that he had heard that she had slept with a billionaire and said it on camera. Is that not damaging? It's not what you said. You said that he called her a whore. He didn't call her a whore. She always moving the goalposts. That's what it is for her. And Danny says, is that saying a whore? And like I just said, she's always moving the goalposts. But Kristen then says that Danny had never said that she was a whore, and I feel stupid listening. I'm like, me too. But Andy then moves to the Michelle Zen party drama. And he ends up talking about how Zack was screaming and stuff, and asks how him and Brittany are doing since filming. And Brittany says they're much better. They talk every day like they're really, really good. And she says that she was shocked watching it back because she wasn't anywhere near the conversation, which I'm like, were you not? But Andy then talks about how they've been friends for 20 years. Apparently he had dated one of the cheerleaders that cheered with Brittany. That's how they were friends. And Andy then talks about how Jax is pretty much blocking Danny and asks, like, do you know why? And Danny was like, I think he's doing it so he could talk shit about me behind my back. 100% correct. And he's sitting there talking about, oh, well, he's probably out there drunk when I was literally at home putting my babies to sleep. So Andy then says, like, if that's why, he ends up asking if that's why you said that he be sleeping with his staff. And Andy says, Brittany says that that's a rumor. And Danny then says that he had heard it from one of his friends. Luke says that Jax came into a bar that he was at with a couple girls. So Jax with a couple girls, it's believable that he's out there fucking them. Like, we know who Jax is. But Andy then talks about Jesse's girlfriend coming to the Zen party too, and her and Michelle getting into it. And he ends up asking Michelle how their interactions were, and Brittany said terrible. Michelle's nodding her head, saying not good, but she doesn't feel comfortable talking about it because her lawyer advised her not to. As we all know, his girlfriend's been threatening legal action. So Andy then says that he had heard that they were screaming. There was a screaming match between the two of them, and she nods, but Brittany then steps in and says she was advised not to speak about it because of the threats. So Kristen then states, let's just not do this legal shit on season 3. Like, let's just film a show. But Jesse then states, like, let's just not do it when she's not here to defend herself too. Andy says, then why would she come on a show where there's cameras, a whole cast here? As we all know, it's a cast filming. Why would you come to camera and expect to not be on camera? Valid question. It's a valid question. But Jesse says they just picked up the cameras and put a boom over our heads as soon as she walked in. And Andy says, as they should have. He said, like, if she walked in here right now, I would have her mic'd up, have her out here right now. This is a hot set. We are at a reunion. This is called The Valley. It's a TV show. That is your girlfriend. Bring her ass out here. I got some questions to ask. But they do final thoughts. And my final thoughts are, what a season. Like, this show pisses me off in a lot of ways because of most of this cast. But they always give us something to talk about. So I can never be mad about that. But I want to thank y'all for being here with me for my first season covering the show. I should have did the season 1, but I didn't watch until, when did this air? This aired in April this year. I didn't watch until, I want to say, like January of this year. So I didn't watch the full season. I just happened to binge watch it because I just wanted to see it. I didn't watch it when it aired, but I binge watched it, and I binge watched it. When I got into it, I got into it. But yeah, I'm here. I'm going to be here for season 3. Like I said, stay locked to me. If you're here for Bravo, stay with me. But I got other content going on. See what you like. I do traders. I do all types of shit. All types of shit. So stay with me. Thumbs up the video if you haven't already. Drop your comments down below. Subscribe if you're new. And I will see y'all next time. Peace.